The alarm buzzed at 5:30 in the morning, just like it did every single day. Maya rolled over and slapped the snooze button, her eyes still heavy with sleep. Through the thin walls of her tiny apartment, she could hear her neighbor's television already blaring some morning talk show. She stared at the ceiling for a moment, counting the cracks she'd memorized over the past 3 years. 15 cracks, all spreading out like tiny rivers from the corner near the window. She didn't want to get up. But bills didn't pay themselves, and her sister's college tuition was due next week. By 6:15, Maya was dressed in her usual uniform black pants, a white button-up shirt, and those terrible non-slip shoes that made her feet ache by noon. She tied her long dark hair back into a tight bun, checking herself in the small bathroom mirror. 28 years old, and she looked tired, really tired, the kind of tired that sleep couldn't fix. The bus ride to work took 40 minutes. Maya spent it staring out the window, watching the city wake up around her. Coffee shops opening their doors, business people rushing to catch trains, street vendors setting up their carts. Everyone moving, always moving, caught up in their own stories. The Grand Hotel stood tall and proud on the corner of 5th and Madison, all marble columns and polished brass doors. Maya had worked there for 3 years now, serving afternoon tea and dinner in the hotel's fancy restaurant, the kind of place where a single pot of tea cost more than she made in 2 hours. She entered through the staff entrance in the back alley, punching her time card exactly at 7. Early, as always. Her manager, Mr. Peterson, liked punctuality, and Maya couldn't afford to get on his bad side. "Morning, Maya," called out Jennifer, one of the other waitresses already tying her apron. "Table assignments are up. Looks like you got the terrace section again." Maya nodded, grabbing her order pad and pen. The terrace section meant lots of walking, lots of stairs, but at least the tips were usually decent. Rich people having lunch in the sunshine tended to be generous, or at least less stingy than the business lunch crowd. The morning prep work was always the same: folding napkins into perfect triangles, polishing silverware until it gleamed, filling sugar bowls, arranging flowers on each table just so. Maya's hands moved automatically, her mind somewhere else entirely. She thought about her sister Lisa, studying biology at State University. Lisa was smart, really smart. The first person in their family to go to college. Maya had made sure of that, even when their father's construction business went under 5 years ago. Even when their mother got sick and the medical bills piled up. Someone had to keep the family afloat, and Maya had been the oldest. She'd made her choice. "Hey, space case." Jennifer nudged her shoulder. "Doors open in 5. You okay?" Maya blinked. "Yeah, sorry. Just thinking." "Well, think later. First customers are already waiting outside." The lunch rush started promptly at noon and didn't let up until 2:30. Maya carried tray after tray of overpriced salads, perfectly cooked steaks, and delicate pastries. She smiled politely, took orders carefully, and never once let on that her feet were screaming or that she de-skipped breakfast again to save money. Table 12 wanted their water with exactly 3 ice cubes. Table 15 sent back their soup because it was too hot. Table 18's elderly woman asked Maya to explain every single item on the dessert menu twice, then ordered nothing. This was her life now, and nobody in this restaurant knew anything else about her. They didn't know that she'd once played piano. Really played. Not just the casual lessons that most kids took for a year and then quit. Maya had been serious about it. Obsessed, even. From age 7 until she turned 18, the piano had been everything to her. She'd practiced 4 hours a day, entering competitions, winning awards. Her childhood bedroom had been filled with trophies and ribbons, and her piano teacher, Mrs. Chun, had called her a natural. "You have a gift," Mrs. Chun used to say, her wrinkled hands resting on Maya's shoulders as she played. "Real talent. Don't waste it." Maya had received a full scholarship to the Riverside Conservatory when she was 18. A full ride to study under some of the best piano instructors in the country. It was everything she dreamed about since the first time her fingers touched ivory keys. But then her father's business collapsed. Then her mother got sick. Then the bills started coming, one after another, like waves trying to drown them all. Someone had to work. Someone had to keep food on the table and keep the electricity on. Lisa was only 14 then, too young to quit school. So Maya had turned down the scholarship. She'd boxed up her sheet music, covered the piano with a dusty sheet, and found a job waiting tables. That was 10 years ago now. 10 years of pretending that part of her life never happened. 10 years of walking past music stores and forcing herself not to look in the windows. 10 years of hearing music play in restaurants and having to swallow the ache in her chest. Nobody at the Grand Hotel knew any of this. To them, she was just Maya, a quiet waitress. The one who showed up early and never complained. The one who smiled politely and disappeared the moment her shift ended. By 3 o'clock, the lunch crowd had cleared out. Maya wiped down her tables, rolled silverware for the dinner service, and checked the schedule posted in the break room. Thursday night, there was a charity gala in the grand ballroom. All staff on deck, which meant overtime pay. She could use that. She grabbed a quick coffee from the staff room, burning her tongue on the bitter brew. Through the service doors, she could hear the events team setting up for tonight. The sound of chairs being arranged, someone testing a microphone. And then, very faint in the distance, she heard it. Piano scales. Someone was warming up on the hotel's grand piano. Maya froze, her coffee cup halfway to her lips. That sound. It cut through her carefully built walls, like a knife through paper. Her hands trembled slightly, and she had to set the cup down before she spilled it. Just scales. Just some pianist preparing for tonight's event. Nothing special. But her heart was pounding, and her fingers flexed unconsciously, remembering the weight of keys, the feel of music flowing through her hands. Maya took a breath, steadying herself. That life was over. She'd made her choice years ago. She had no idea that in just a few hours, everything was about to change. The grand ballroom of the Grand Hotel looked like something out of a fairy tale. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling, casting tiny rainbows across the polished marble floor. Round tables covered in white linen filled the space, each one decorated with tall centerpieces of white roses and golden ribbons. Maya had seen plenty of fancy events in her 3 years here, but tonight felt different, bigger, more important. "This is for the Children's Hospital," Jennifer whispered as they arranged wine glasses at the bar station. "They're trying to raise $500,000. Can you imagine? $500,000 in one night." Maya couldn't imagine it. That was more money than she'd make in 10 years of waiting tables. Maybe 15. Mr. Peterson gathered all the staff near the kitchen doors, his face serious. "Listen up, everyone. We have 200 guests tonight. Very important people. Donors, business executives, city officials. I need everyone on their best behavior. Smile, be polite, and for heaven's sake, don't spill anything on anyone." The servers nodded, straightening their uniforms. Maya checked her apron for the 3rd time, making sure everything was perfect. "The evening will start with a cocktail hour," Mr. Peterson continued, "followed by dinner, then a special piano performance by Daniel Rostov. You know, the famous concert pianist. After that, speeches and the donation pledges. Questions? No one had questions. They'd done this 100 times before. By 6 o'clock, the guests started arriving. Maya watched from her position near the service bar as women in designer gowns and men in expensive tuxedos filtered into the ballroom. Jewelry sparkled. Champagne flutes clinked. The air filled with laughter and conversation, the kind of easy chatter that came from people who never worried about rent or electric bills. Maya moved through the crowd with her tray, offering champagne and hors d'oeuvres, smoked salmon on tiny crackers. mushroom tarts, little glasses of gazpacho. She smiled and nodded, practically invisible to the guests who took food from her tray without really seeing her. That's how it always was. She was part of the furniture, part of the background. Dinner service went smoothly. Maya and the other servers moved in practiced rhythm, delivering courses, refilling wine glasses, clearing plates. Her feet hurt, but she ignored it. Just a few more hours, then she could go home, soak her feet, and collapse into bed. After dessert was served, the lights dimmed slightly. A small stage at the front of the ballroom was lit with soft spotlights, and there, centered perfectly, sat a magnificent grand piano. Black and glossy, it looked like a sleeping giant. Maya felt her chest tighten. She forced herself to look away, focusing on collecting empty dessert plates from table 7. Mr. Peterson appeared suddenly at her elbow, his face pale and stressed. He was speaking rapidly into his radio headset, listening to someone on the other end. Maya had never seen him look so panicked. "What do you mean he can't perform?" Mr. Peterson hissed into the headset. "What happened?" Maya tried not to eavesdrop, but it was impossible not to hear. "Food poisoning? How? When?" Mr. Peterson's voice rose an octave. "He's in the hospital right now?" Several other staff members had stopped what they were doing, all of them watching Mr. Peterson's meltdown with wide eyes. "Find someone else," Mr. Peterson snapped. "There has to be another pianist in this city. Call someone. Anyone." Jennifer sidled up next to Maya. "What's going on?" "I think the pianist is sick," Maya whispered back. "He can't perform." "Oh no. This whole event is supposed to build up to his performance. It's like the main attraction." They watched as Mr. Peterson rushed off toward the back hallway, still barking orders into his headset. The event coordinator, a thin woman named Rebecca, with a clipboard permanently attached to her hand, was speed walking around the ballroom, her heels clicking urgently against the marble floor. Maya continued clearing tables, but she kept one ear on the growing chaos. She could hear fragments of panicked conversations. "No one available on such short notice. The guests are expecting a performance. We can't just cancel. We've got donors ready to pledge. Maybe we can play a recording?" "That's not the same, Rebecca." The energy in the ballroom was starting to shift. Guests were checking their watches, looking toward the empty piano with confused expressions. The carefully planned evening was falling apart. Maya carried a stack of plates toward the kitchen, her mind racing. She tried to push away the thoughts that were bubbling up, the dangerous what-ifs that she'd spent 10 years suppressing. "It's not your problem," she told herself firmly. "Just do your job and go home." But as she pushed through the kitchen doors, she nearly collided with Mr. Peterson and Rebecca, who were having a heated argument near the walk-in refrigerator. "The Children's Hospital is counting on this money," Rebecca said, her voice desperate. "If we don't give these people the show they came for, half of them will leave without pledging anything. We'll lose hundreds of thousands of dollars." "I know that," Mr. Peterson snapped. "But what am I supposed to do? Pull a concert pianist out of thin air?" Maya set down her plates, intending to slip past them unnoticed. "We're ruined," Rebecca muttered, running her hands through her perfectly styled hair. "This whole event is ruined. Those kids needed this money for new medical equipment, and we're going to have to tell them." Maya stopped walking. Her heart was pounding so hard, she could hear it in her ears. Her hands were shaking. Every logical part of her brain was screaming at her to stay quiet, to mind her own business, to stay invisible like she always did. But she kept thinking about those kids. Kids in hospital beds who needed equipment. Kids whose parents probably lay awake at night, worrying about medical bills, just like Maya had worried about her mother. And she thought about that piano sitting on the stage, waiting, silent. Before she could stop herself, before she could talk herself out of it, Maya heard her own voice speaking. It sounded strange and far away, like it belonged to someone else. "I can play." The kitchen went silent. Every head turned toward her. Rebecca and Mr. Peterson stared at her like she'd just announced she could fly. "What?" Mr. Peterson said. Maya's throat felt dry. She swallowed hard. "The piano. I can play it. If you need someone." Rebecca's eyes narrowed. "You're a waitress." "I know, but I used to play. A long time ago. I had a scholarship to the Riverside Conservatory. I can do this." The words hung in the air. Maya couldn't believe she'd actually said them out loud. After 10 years of silence, of pretending that part of her didn't exist, she just exposed everything. Mr. Peterson and Rebecca exchanged glances. Maya could see the calculation in their eyes. They were desperate, but was desperation enough to trust a waitress? "What pieces do you know?" Rebecca asked slowly. Maya's mind raced through her repertoire, pieces she hadn't touched in a decade, but that were still carved into her memory like scars. Rachmaninoff, Chopin, Beethoven, Debussy, whatever you need. Another long silence. Maya could hear the industrial dishwasher humming in the background, the muffled sounds of the ballroom beyond the doors. Finally, Rebecca looked at Mr. Peterson. "We don't have any other options. It's either her or nothing." Mr. Peterson looked at Maya, really looked at her, probably for the first time in 3 years. She could see him weighing the risks, imagining all the ways this could go horribly wrong. "Fine," he said at last. "But if you embarrass this hotel, you're fired. Understand?" Maya nodded, not trusting her voice. "You're on in 15 minutes, Rebecca said, already turning away. "Don't mess this up." And just like that, Maya's world tilted on its axis. She walked slowly back toward the ballroom, her legs feeling numb. What had she just done? 15 minutes. In 15 minutes, she would sit at that piano in front of 200 wealthy strangers and play music she had untouched in 10 years. She was either about to save the evening or humiliate herself completely. Maybe both. Maya stood in the small backstage area, her hands trembling so badly she had to clasp them together. Through the heavy curtain, she could hear the murmur of 200 voices, the clink of wine glasses, the rustle of expensive fabric. Her waitress uniform suddenly felt wrong, too casual, too ordinary for what she was about to do. Jennifer rushed over with a concerned look. "Maya, are you sure about this?" I mean, really sure. Maya wasn't sure about anything. Her mouth felt like sandpaper. "I don't know, but it's too late now. When did you learn to play piano?" "A long time ago." "Another life." Rebecca appeared, her clipboard clutched to her chest like a shield. "Okay, here's what's happening. I'm going to go out there and explain that Daniel Rostov fell ill, but that we have a special surprise replacement performer. I'll keep it vague. Then you walk out, sit down, and play. Can you do Rachmaninoff? Something impressive?" Maya nodded slowly. "Piano Concerto No. 2. But there's no orchestra. Just play what you can. These people won't know the difference. Most of them are here for the tax write-off anyway." Rebecca paused, studying Maya's face. "You look terrified." "I am terrified." "Good. Use it." Rebecca turned and walked toward the stage entrance. "You're on in 60 seconds. Maya closed her eyes and tried to steady her breathing. Her fingers flexed involuntarily, muscle memory awakening after years of sleep. She thought about the last time she'd performed in front of people. A competition when she was 17, playing Mozart. She'd won first place. Mrs. Chun had been so proud. Mrs. Chun. Where was she now? Did she even remember Maya? That girl who'd had so much promise and then just vanished? 30 seconds, someone whispered. Maya's heart hammered against her ribs. She could still back out. She could turn around, walk out the back door, and disappear into the night. Find another job, another restaurant, keep hiding. But then she thought about those kids in the hospital. Kids who needed help. Kids whose parents were probably drowning in bills and fear, just like her family had been. She thought about her sister, Lisa, studying hard at college, because Maya had made it possible. She thought about the 10 years she'd spent pretending she was someone else. Maya opened her eyes. Through a gap in the curtain, she watched Rebecca step onto the stage. The room quieted immediately. "Good evening, everyone. I'm afraid I have some unfortunate news. Daniel Rostov has fallen ill and cannot perform tonight." Disappointed murmurs rippled through the crowd. "However," Rebecca continued, her voice bright and practiced, "we have arranged for a very special surprise performance. Please welcome our pianist for the evening." That was Maya's cue. No name, no introduction. Just walk out there. Maya's legs felt like they belonged to someone else as she moved through the curtain and onto the stage. The lights were brighter than she'd expected, hot and glaring. She couldn't see the audience clearly, just shapes and shadows and the gleam of jewelry catching the light. She walked toward the piano, her cheap non-slip shoes squeaking slightly on the polished stage floor. The walk felt like it took forever. She could feel every eye on her, could sense the confusion rippling through the crowd. Who was this? A waitress in her work uniform? This was the special surprise? Maya reached the piano bench and sat down. The smooth wood felt familiar under her fingers as she adjusted the height slightly. She looked down at the keys, black and white, pristine and perfect. How many times had she dreamed about this? How many times had she walked past music stores and felt this exact ache? The room was so quiet she could hear her own breathing. Someone in the audience coughed. Someone else whispered something. She caught the words, "You've got to be kidding." Maya's hands hovered over the keys. For one horrible moment, her mind went completely blank. She couldn't remember a single note. 10 years of silence, and now nothing. Empty. Panic clawed at her throat. Then, without thinking, without planning, her fingers touched the keys. The opening notes of Rachmaninoff's Piano Concerto No. 2 filled the ballroom, soft and haunting and achingly beautiful. And just like that, Maya was 17 again. She was in Mrs. Chun's studio, playing for the pure joy of it. She was in her childhood bedroom, practicing while rain drummed against the window. She was competing, performing, living and breathing music. Her fingers remembered everything her mind had tried to forget. The piece built slowly, each phrase flowing into the next. Maya's body swayed with the music, her hands flying across the keys with a grace that came from somewhere deeper than practice. This was muscle memory, yes, but it was more than that. It was 10 years of suppressed emotion, pouring out all at once. Every note carried the weight of sacrifice. Every chord held the ache of dreams deferred. The music swelled and crashed like waves, powerful and unstoppable. Maya forgot about the audience. She forgot about her uniform, about her aching feet, about the bills waiting at home. There was only the music and the piano and the feeling of finally being allowed to breathe again. Her fingers danced through the complex runs and arpeggios. The technically difficult passages that had taken her months to master as a teenager came back as if she de-played them yesterday. The piano responded to her touch like an old friend, singing out every emotion she'd kept locked inside. The first movement gave way to the second, softer and more introspective. Maya played it like a confession, each note a secret she'd kept too long. Then the third movement, triumphant and soaring, building toward a crescendo, it made her whole body vibrate with the force of it. She hit the final chords with everything she had, the sound filling every corner of the massive ballroom, echoing off the crystal chandeliers and marble columns. Then silence. Complete and absolute silence. Maya's hands stilled on the keys. Her chest heaved as she tried to catch her breath. Slowly, carefully, she lifted her gaze from the piano and looked out at the audience. 200 people stared back at her. Nobody moved. Nobody made a sound. Maya's stomach dropped. She'd failed. She'd embarrassed herself in the hotel and ruined everything. They were all sitting there in shocked disbelief at the disaster they'd just witnessed. She started to stand, ready to flee, when someone in the front row rose to their feet. Then another person stood, and another. Suddenly, the entire ballroom erupted. People were on their feet, applauding so loudly the sound was almost overwhelming. Some were wiping tears from their eyes. Others were shaking their heads in disbelief, still clapping. The applause rolled over Maya in waves, stunning her into stillness. She stood there, frozen, unable to process what was happening. "Brava!" someone shouted from the back. "Incredible!" called another voice. Maya's vision blurred. Were those tears? She hadn't cried in years. She'd trained herself not to, because once she started, she might never stop. Through the sea of standing, applauding people, Maya saw Mr. Peterson and Rebecca at the back of the room. Rebecca was crying openly, her clipboard forgotten at her side. Mr. Peterson's mouth hung open in shock. Jennifer stood near the service bar, both hands pressed to her mouth, her eyes wide and shining. The applause continued, thunderous and unrelenting. Maya managed a small, shaky bow, completely overwhelmed. But then she noticed something that made her blood run cold. In the front row, an elderly woman with silver hair had risen to her feet. She wasn't just applauding. She was staring at Maya with an expression of recognition, her wrinkled hands pressed to her chest. Maya knew that face. Even after 10 years, she knew it. It was Mrs. Chun, her old piano teacher. The woman who had believed in her when no one else did. The woman Maya had disappeared on without explanation, too ashamed to admit she was giving up her dreams. Their eyes met across the crowded ballroom, and Maya saw something in Mrs. Chun's expression that broke her heart all over again. It was the look of someone who'd been searching for something lost and had finally, impossibly, found it. The applause finally began to fade, but Maya couldn't move. She stood there on the stage, rooted to the spot, staring at Mrs. Chun in the front row. Her old teacher's eyes were filled with tears, one hand still pressed against her heart. Rebecca rushed onto the stage, her professional smile firmly in place despite her red-rimmed eyes. She gently touched Maya's elbow, guiding her off the stage as the crowd continued to murmur and whisper. Maya walked in a daze, her legs shaky, her mind struggling to process what had just happened. "That was extraordinary," Rebecca whispered as they reached the backstage area. "I don't know what else to say, just extraordinary." Maya nodded numbly. Her hands were still trembling. She looked down at them, these hands that had just played Rachmaninoff after 10 years of silence. They looked the same as they always did. Rough from work, a small burn scar on her left thumb from the restaurant kitchen. But they'd just done something impossible. "Maya!" Jennifer appeared, practically bouncing with excitement. "Oh my God, Maya! I had no idea. Why didn't you ever tell anyone?" Maya started, but she didn't have an answer. How could she explain 10 years of deliberate forgetting? More people were coming backstage now. Guests who wanted to meet her, to congratulate her, to ask where she'd studied and why they'd never heard of her. Rebecca tried to manage the crowd, but it was overwhelming. Then the crowd parted, and Mrs. Chun stood there. She looked older, of course. More lines around her eyes, her hair completely silver now, instead of the salt and pepper Maya remembered. But her expression was the same one she'd worn during 1,000 lessons, proud, intense, and completely focused. "Maya," Mrs. Chun said softly. Just the one word, but it carried the weight of 10 years. "Mrs. Chun," Maya's voice cracked. "I didn't know you'd be here. I come to these events every year. I donate in memory of my late husband. He loved supporting the children's hospital." Mrs. Chun stepped closer, studying Maya's face. "I knew it was you the moment you started playing. That touch, that feeling, I'd recognize it anywhere. But where have you been? You disappeared. I tried to contact you, but you never returned my calls." Shame burned through Maya's chest. "I'm sorry. I couldn't face you. After I turned down the scholarship, after I gave up everything we'd worked for. Gave up? Mrs. Chun's voice rose slightly. Is that what you think you did? I had to work. My family needed money, and I couldn't. Stop. Mrs. Chun held up one hand. Come with me. We need to talk properly. She led Maya to a quiet corner near the coat check, away from the crowd and noise. They sat on a velvet bench, and Mrs. Chun turned to face her fully. Do you know why I gave you that scholarship recommendation? Mrs. Chun asked. Maya shook her head, not trusting her voice. Because in 30 years of teaching, I'd never encountered anyone with your gift. Not just technical skill, plenty of students have good technique, but you had something more. You played with your soul, Maya. Every note meant something. I heard your heart in that music. Tears spilled down Maya's cheeks. She'd spent so long not thinking about this, not letting herself feel it. When you disappeared, Mrs. Chun continued, I was devastated. I called your home for months. Your father finally answered once and told me about your mother's illness, about the financial troubles. He said you were working, that you'd made your choice. I wanted to help, but he said you wouldn't accept charity. I couldn't, Maya whispered. It wouldn't have been enough anyway. The bills were too much. I know. Mrs. Chun's voice was gentle. I'm not angry at you, child. I never was. I was heartbroken, yes. But you did what you had to do for your family. That takes a different kind of strength than playing piano. Maya wiped her eyes with the back of her hand, probably smearing what little makeup she wore. I tried to forget about music. It hurt too much to think about what I'd lost. But you can't forget, can you? It's not something you can just turn off. Mrs. Chun smiled sadly. Music isn't a hobby for people like us. It's part of who we are. You can ignore it, suppress it, run from it, but it never leaves you. I haven't played in 10 years. Not until tonight. I could tell. Your technique was a bit rusty in places. But Maya, listen to me, what you did tonight was remarkable. After 10 years away from the piano, you played one of the most difficult pieces in the classical repertoire, and you played it beautifully. Do you understand how rare that is? Maya shook her head. It was probably terrible. I couldn't let those kids lose the donations. And once I started playing, it all just came back. Muscle memory is a powerful thing. But more than that, you have a natural gift. That doesn't disappear just because you stop practicing. Mrs. Chun reached out and took Maya's hands in her own weathered ones. What are you doing working as a waitress? What happened to your dreams? I told you. I had to choose my family. And what about now? Your mother, is she? She passed away 3 years ago, Maya said quietly. Cancer. Mrs. Chun squeezed her hands. I'm so sorry. My sister is in college now. She's studying biology. She's brilliant. That's wonderful. But Maya, what about you? What about your life? The question hung in the air between them. Maya had spent so long thinking about her sister's future, about keeping the family afloat, about just surviving day to day. She'd never stopped to ask herself that question. What about her? Before she could answer, a man approached them. He was middle-aged, wearing an expensive suit and holding a phone. Excuse me, are you the pianist who just performed? Maya nodded hesitantly. My name is David Patterson. I'm a documentary filmmaker. I was filming the event tonight for the hospital. He turned his phone around, showing a video paused on an image of Maya at the piano. I captured your entire performance. Would you consent to me posting this online? I think people need to see this. I don't know, Maya said, suddenly uncomfortable. I'm just a waitress. It was just one performance. That's exactly why people need to see it, David insisted. This isn't some established concert pianist doing their job. This is a woman in a work uniform who stepped up to save an entire charity event. It's an incredible story. Mrs. Chun was nodding. He's right, Maya. This could open doors for you. I don't want doors, Maya protested. I just wanted to help tonight. That's all. But even as she said it, She felt something shifting inside her. That old hunger, the one she'd buried so deep, was waking up. When she'd been playing tonight, for those few minutes, she'd felt alive in a way she hadn't felt in 10 years. Like she'd been holding her breath all this time, and had finally been allowed to breathe. "Just think about it," David said, handing her a business card. "My contact information is there. But honestly, with or without your permission, people are going to talk about what happened here tonight. You made an impression." He walked away, and Maya stared at the business card in her hand. "He's right," Mrs. Chun said. "Word will spread. You can't put the genie back in the bottle now." "I don't know what to do," Maya admitted. "This wasn't supposed to happen. I was just supposed to serve food and go home. Life rarely goes according to plan." Mrs. Chun stood, smoothing her elegant dress. "But I'll tell you what I do know. That scholarship I recommended you for 10 years ago? The conservatory has an artist-in-residence program now. It's different from the student scholarship. It's for experienced musicians who want to teach while also continuing their own development. Room, board, a small stipend, and full access to the practice facilities." Maya's heart stuttered. "Mrs. Chun, I can't—" "I'm on the board now," Mrs. Chun interrupted. "And I can make a strong recommendation, but only if you want it. Only if you're ready to stop running from who you are." The question seemed to echo in Maya's mind. Was she ready? "I need to think," Maya said. "Of course. Take your time." Mrs. Chun pulled out her own card and pressed it into Maya's palm. "But don't take 10 more years, please. Some chances only come once. Others come twice, if we're very lucky. But 3 times? That's rare." She leaned forward and kissed Maya's forehead, just like she used to do after a particularly good lesson. Then she walked away, disappearing back into the elegant crowd. Maya sat alone on the velvet bench, holding 2 business cards in her hands and feeling like her entire world had just tilted sideways. Everything was about to change. She just wasn't sure if she was ready for it. Maya woke up the next morning to her phone buzzing nonstop. Confused and groggy, she grabbed it from her nightstand and squinted at the screen. 47 missed calls. Over 200 text messages. Her social media notifications had exploded into the thousands. What in the world? She opened her messages. Most were from numbers she didn't recognize. But there was one from her sister, Lisa, sent at 2 in the morning and written in all capital letters. "Maya, call me right now. You're viral, like actually viral." With shaking hands, Maya opened her social media app. The first thing she saw was David Patterson's video from last night. The title read, "Waitress saves charity event with stunning piano performance." The view count made her breath catch. 23 million views in less than 12 hours. Maya sat up in bed, her heart pounding. She pressed play on the video, watching herself walk onto that stage in her waitress uniform. She watched herself sit at the piano, saw her own hands trembling over the keys. Then the music started, and even through her phone's tiny speaker, she could hear the emotion in every note. The comments section was endless. Thousands and thousands of people sharing the video, tagging their friends, writing paragraphs about how the performance had moved them to tears. "This is the most beautiful thing I've ever heard. I've watched this 10 times already, and I cry every time. Who is this woman? Someone give her a record deal. The fact that she's in her work uniform makes this even more powerful." Maya's phone rang. It was Lisa. She answered, still in shock. "Maya. Oh my God, Maya. Have you seen it? Have you seen what's happening?" "I'm looking at it right now." "Lisa, I don't understand." "It was just one performance." "Just one performance?" "Maya, you're everywhere. It's on the news. It's trending on every platform. People are calling you the waitress virtuoso. The video has been shared by celebrities, musicians, news outlets. So everyone's talking about you." Maya felt dizzy. This couldn't be real. Things like this didn't happen to people like her. "Are you okay?" Lisa asked, her voice shifting to concern. This must be overwhelming. I don't know what I am, Maya admitted. I just wanted to help with the charity event. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. Well, it happened. And Maya, you need to come visit me this weekend. We need to talk about this in person. Please? They agreed on Saturday, and Maya ended the call in a daze. She got ready for work on autopilot, her mind spinning. The Grand Hotel. She still had to go to work. Bills didn't stop just because a video went viral. But when she arrived at the hotel, everything was different. Mr. Peterson met her at the staff entrance, looking uncomfortable. Maya, we need to talk. In my office, her stomach dropped. Was she in trouble? Had she violated some hotel policy by performing? In his office, Mr. Peterson gestured for her to sit. I've been getting calls all morning. News outlets, talk shows, concert promoters. Everyone wants to know about you, about the hotel, about what happened last night. I'm sorry if I caused problems, Maya started. Problems? Mr. Peterson actually laughed. Maya, you've given this hotel the best publicity we could ever ask for. The charity raised $800,000 last night. Double their goal. The hospital administrator called personally this morning to thank us. He paused, looking at her with something that might have been respect. I had no idea you could do that. Neither did I, honestly. It's been 10 years. Well, here's the situation. We'd like to keep you on staff, but not as a waitress. We want you to perform here regularly, Friday and Saturday nights in the lobby lounge. We'll pay you triple what you're making now, and you can keep all tips from the performance jar. Maya stared at him. You want me to be a pianist? Here? If you're interested. Though something tells me you're going to get much bigger offers soon. He was right. By the end of the day, Maya's phone had ringing with opportunities that seemed impossible. A recording studio wanted to produce an album. A concert hall in New York was offering her a performance slot. 3 different morning shows wanted her as a guest. An agent called, saying she could make this into a real career if she wanted. It was too much, too fast. Maya felt like she was drowning in possibilities. On Saturday, she took the bus to State University to visit Lisa. Her little sister met her at the campus coffee shop, practically vibrating with excitement. You look exhausted, Lisa said, hugging her tight. I haven't slept much. My phone won't stop ringing. They ordered coffee and found a quiet corner booth. Lisa reached across the table and took Maya's hands, just like Mrs. Chun had done 2 nights ago. I need to tell you something, Lisa said. And you need to listen without interrupting, okay? Maya nodded. I've known for years why you turned down that scholarship. I know you did it for me, for Mom, for the family. I was only 14, but I wasn't stupid. I saw you pack up your sheet music. I heard you crying at night when you thought everyone was asleep. Lisa's eyes filled with tears. And I felt guilty about it every single day since. Lisa, no. Let me finish. I'm finishing college in 2 months. I already have a job lined up at a research lab. Good pay, benefits, everything. I don't need your help anymore, Maya. I haven't needed it for a while, but you kept sacrificing anyway because that's who you are. Lisa squeezed her hands tighter. It's my turn now. It's my turn to tell you to follow your dreams. You've spent 10 years making sure I could have mine. Don't you dare waste this chance. Maya felt tears streaming down her face. But what if I fail? What if I'm not good enough anymore? Did you watch that video? Really watch it? You made 23 million people feel something. You're good enough. You've always been good enough. The only person who doesn't believe that is you. They sat there crying together in the coffee shop, not caring who saw them. When Maya finally collected herself, she made a decision. She called Mrs. Chun that afternoon. Is that artist-in-residence position still available? For you? Always. 3 months later, Maya walked through the doors of the Riverside Conservatory for the first time in a decade. She had a small studio apartment on campus, a teaching schedule, and 4 hours a day reserved for her own practice and development. The recording studio deal had come through. The concert at Carnegie Hall was scheduled for November, but the day that meant the most was her first teaching session. 5 young students, all scholarship kids from families who couldn't afford private lessons. Kids who had talent but needed someone to believe in them. Maya understood those kids. She'd been one of them. On her first day teaching, Maya made one request to the conservatory. She asked if the staff from the Grand Hotel could receive free tickets to her Carnegie Hall performance. Front row seats. Mr. Peterson, Jennifer, and a dozen others showed up in November, dressed in their finest clothes. They stood and applauded louder than anyone when Maya took her bow. But this time, she wasn't wearing a waitress uniform. She wore an elegant gown, and she played on one of the world's most famous stages. Yet somehow, she was still the same person who'd been terrified backstage at a charity event, wondering if her hands would remember what her heart had never forgotten. After the concert, a young woman approached Maya at the stage door. She was maybe 19, wearing a fast food uniform and holding a phone nervously. "I saw your video," the girl said. "The one from the hotel. I used to play violin, but I had to quit to work. I just wanted to say, your story made me think maybe it's not too late for me either." Maya took the girl's hand and smiled. "It's never too late. Trust me. I'm living proof." The girl's eyes filled with hope, and Maya saw herself reflected there, the girl she'd been, the woman she'd become, the teacher she was now. Sometimes dreams don't die. Sometimes they just wait, patient and quiet, until we're finally brave enough to reach for them again. And sometimes all it takes is one moment of courage to change everything.